Today we answer, who has it more difficult? Pitchers keeping Big Christmas in the park? Or is it national TV and podcasters trying to pronounce Jhonkensy? Just sound it out.
You're listening to the Selby is Godcast with Zach Meisel
not
and
Jhonkensy.
TJ Supi.
Not Jhonkensy.
I heard a Jhonkensy.
Subscribe to Selby is Godcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Unbelievable.
But to be honest, Zach, it really doesn't matter because the sound that is the sweetest is the ball leaving his lumber. And I will settle for that, no matter what you call the guy. Stick with Big Christmas and let this guy continue to hit bombs. We're good with that.
What are the best sounds in sports? Like, is it the swish of the net when someone splashes a three-pointer from deep? Is there anything in football? Like the crunch of like a perfect tackle, like when a safety or a linebacker had to sprint 15 yards and then just lay someone out?
A good quarterback, whether it's an audible or just a false snap, you're just trying to trick trying to get the offsides. If the quarterback is real good at it, that's a real good
hard
sound.
Count?
Yeah, that's a
just
good sound.
Just yelling Omaha is akin to...
Only if they have like metal vocal style audibles. Otherwise, no, it's kind of silly. But if he's got a good set of pipes, I kind of dig it.
I mean, there are few sounds just sweeter than a no-doubt home run when you hear that crack of the bat, and you know instantly. You don't need to look up. You don't need to check, is that going to go halfway up the bleachers? Is it going to go into the trees in center field? Is it going to go onto the plaza? Doesn't matter. You know it's gone, and you know there's no question. And I feel like with Noel, 95% of his home runs produce that sound. And it's pretty cool.
And you'll take the power, especially when the rest of the offense is struggling to put things together all the time. But there's something about this series in particular. I don't know if they had a different camera person behind it just in this series, but they had a fascination with following the trajectory of the ball. And you know when you get those absolute moonshots and they zoom in the air and it looks magnificent? There were a couple times where that happened in this series, and then there was one that landed in the front row. But when I watched it, I thought for sure that was going to end. Like if I'm looking behind you now, as courtesy of YouTube, I thought for sure that was going to end up in the third deck, just watching it travel. And then Jose had one in the finale where it looked like he hit it to the absolute moon. Look out, Mark McGwire Budweiser sign. That's how hard it looked like he hit it. And Matt Underwood was like, then he pops it up to left field, and I'm watching like, what am I missing? The ball's in the air. It looks like it's a no doubt about it goner. And Underwood's like, and he cruises back, and just shy of the warning track, he makes the play. What happened here?
Look, I don't know what the future of Bally's is, but can somebody late in the season when, maybe they won't be back next year, so let's do a last day of school prank. Can someone find some footage, just find me Mars and drop a baseball onto there? And then if Jhonkensy Noel hits one out, I want that shot of following the trajectory of the baseball, but then instead of showing the fans where the baseball actually lands, cut to the Mars thing and just see how many people are confused.
Like when they would do the first pitch from the space station.
Yes.
Remember in the 95 World Series, I believe they did it. And then the ball, they got to the field, and the ball falls down and hits as if he threw it from the space station, and it fell down at then Jacobs Field. So that's what you're asking for.
Yeah. I mean, I tweeted this a few weeks ago, but it's cool. I want to see.
It's gonna make me cry thinking about it.
I want to see the league stars in the home run derby every year. But I also want to see somebody like that. I mean, I don't know. Like, would he be the betting favorite? Do enough people know about him? Or would he be a long shot, but everybody in Cleveland would bet on him because we've seen it?
Is this you just trying to manifest Franmil Reyes home run totals into a new person? Is this what this is?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, but he is a fun player because the spectacle that he creates with the home runs, it's must see. It is a ball. There are times where Jose hits a ball and it does just scrape the back of the wall. And it's exciting because you created offense, but the actual replay itself isn't what is magnificent. It's just the outcome of the play. Jhonkensy Noel, fortunately, a lot of his home runs have also been key home runs, and you're excited about that. But I could just watch this over and over. I could not get tired, I don't think ever, just watching the ball leave his bat, seeing how much joy he gets in releasing the bat and circling the bases. He just looks like a fun player. The smile's infectious. He's got an outstanding nickname. I mean, he's got it all together. God, do I hope this is something. I really hope that they have found something with him because he just seems like such a fun individual, a guy you'd want to root for. And his bombs are just awesome.
David Fry called him Navidad after the game on Sunday.
That's great. He made him his Navidad is what he did.
We were all kids in the neighborhood at one time playing home run derby or playing a pickup game, and you'd hit a no-doubter, and you know that feeling, and I can't describe it. I mean, it's nirvana. It's when you make contact and you know it's going off of the window of that neighbor's house down the street, and yeah, you're probably going to get yelled at, but who cares? It was worth it. I just imagine him with that power, that bat speed, being a kid playing home run derby in the neighborhood. I mean, that's like he was probably launching them into 3 streets over. I mean, it's so now he's getting to do that on a major league field.
Noel did it again.
And I don't know how sustainable it is. I don't think it frankly matters right now. That's a concern for future Zack and T.J. to talk about.
Yeah.
But let it ride.
I would be concerned. I would be concerned because I don't want pitchers to adjust fast enough that it's going to be a thing for the rest of this year. And we know everyone will adjust. A guy could have elite bat speed. You could have everything that he brings, but he's got a lot of swing and miss. And pitchers at this level, coaches at this level, they're going to find it. They're going to expose it. The question is Noel, and we said this when he got promoted, we knew the swing and miss is going to be in there. We know he's going to go through stretches where he's going to be on an almost automatic out. That's going to happen with a hitter like this. The question is, does he get into it enough that it changes the game enough that you live with the really poor at-bats, the 3 days where he doesn't really do much of anything, but 2 to 3 times a week, as we just kind of witnessed here in this series, he completely flips the game on its head, just courtesy of that one swing. And it's also someone that, yes, maybe there's a lot of holes for a pitcher to attack, but it's also a guy you got to be really careful with. And if you make a mistake, that's when he is going to crush you. And yes, if you execute perfectly, there are going to be times where you can get this guy out. But just like a hitter isn't perfect with their swing, like we're seeing with Stephen Kwan right now, a pitcher is not always going to be pinpoint accurate with where I need to throw it here, but I missed. And he crushed it out of the park. And you just have to hope that it happens enough with him that it justifies him being in that lineup. Right now, it absolutely is.
He's the quickest Cleveland hitter ever to 12 career home runs. Did it in his 110th at bat. Do you know who's number 2? Do you know whose record he broke?
I'll just say Russell Branyan because I've seen Russell Branyan's name. But yeah, who is it?
It's Russell Branyan.
Okay.
118 at bats for him. And honestly, I mean, I don't know what Russell Branyan's chase rate was in 1997. I can imagine. But that's not bad company in terms of like Branyan was. I mean, he had 40 home runs in a minor league season, which should be impossible because if you're hitting that many, you should get called up. But that's not bad company. Branyan played in the majors for a long time. Other names on the list were like Corey Snyder, Rocky Colavito, Tyler Naquin in 2016. So I don't know where this goes.
Of course.
I don't think it matters. I think the big thing, too, is as long as he's on a heater, let him keep playing, because you don't want him sitting and then feeling like, oh, finally an at-bat. I got to make the most of this. And that's when he's definitely, he's always going to have chase, right? That's when he's definitely going to chase. So, yeah, they don't have enough hitters functioning on all cylinders to not be playing Noel regularly. And when that inevitably happens, where the chase, the swing and miss lead to an extended slump, you deal with it then. And you figure out the best way to adjust back, the best way to deploy him at that point. But that point isn't now. And you need to win every game you can, and you need as much offense as you can find.
I keep looking at the Savant page. He's such an interesting bat because overall, coming into today, well above average, of course, in expected weighted on base average, which was 349. His expected slugging percentage is basically 500, 497. And that only increased today with another bomb. His barrel percentage, 18.9%, is among the best in baseball. You're talking about an absolute elite barrel rate, and his bat speed is among the best in baseball too. We don't have enough bat speed data to know how this translates long term. This is all new to us, but it is something where there are guys that go on a heater with their home runs, and you say, I don't know if this is a sustainable thing. For him, his power is absolutely real. You hit the ball.
Have you seen
basically
him?
once. 116 miles per hour. You know, what was the double, I think, down the line? He had a double down the line, which did not get that high off the ground, and it was a barrel. You really don't see many balls that are scalded like that turn into barrels. You're thinking, they're in the gap and high up in the air. It's a really good launch angle, right? But his was just hit so damn hard that it was like, yeah, I guess it's got to be a barrel. And in terms of barrels, I had tweeted it out, and he had another one today. He tied David Fry momentarily until Fry hit the home run to give Cleveland the insurance and take 2 out of 3 in this series. I promise we'll talk about more than just Jhonkensy Noel. Maybe. It's kind of fun just talking about
By the way, welcome
Noel.
to the
Thank
podcast.
You. Of course. Welcome. Selby's Godcast. Thank you for finding us at YouTube. Go down there, click like, subscribe. We appreciate it. If you just like the audio-only version, we love you too. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you catch the podcast. His power, nobody has to question. It's just, does he do it enough to justify being in there? I laughed. We had on the Patreon show, patreon.com/SelbyisGodcast is where you get more episodes per week. I laughed because I had said something like, well, of course he's going to stay in the lineup right now. I'm in favor of that. Like it was even a question. Like I was going back and editing it. And I laughed at myself, like, you idiot. Yes, of course he's going to. Who would you argue to be in the lineup instead of this guy? But we just don't know. We're waiting to see how does the league adjust to him. But in terms of, I've seen him compared to Oscar Gonzalez. And with Oscar Gonzalez, we said with him, he always looked like a guy caught in between what sort of hitter he wanted to be. Do you want to be more of a power bat? Do you want to be a guy that can handle the ball all over the strike zone and you can take a ball off the plate and serve it into right field and hit for a 300 average? Do you want to do that? And Oscar Gonzalez, it always felt like he wanted to do all of that. And it just his skill set, he wasn't going to be capable of doing that. For Jhonkensy Noel, does anybody question what this guy's up here to do? I think he's trying to find the seats somewhere in left field or the home run porch. Can we now, instead of Pronkville in right field, can we have Jonkville in left field?
Hey, stop. You're stealing my thunder.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No, I've been saying all day, because someone asked me, should they call him, instead of Big Christmas, should they call him Jonk, like Pronk? And my response was, but then you'd have to put Jonkville in the Gateway Plaza, and nobody wants to sit there. Because
you might get sprayed with baseballs. You might take one upside the head.
Because Pronkville was the right field mezzanine, because it's where most of Travis Hafner's home runs were headed. And with Noel, you're not safe. If you're driving along on Huron, I would be careful if he's at bat.
The other thing that makes him different than Gonzalez is he'll swing and miss a little bit more than Oscar did, which might be a good thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because the worst thing I think you can be is a guy who, Gonzalez was like built like a praying mantis. Like he was huge. The arms were long, and Like, it looked like he was too big for the batter's box, and then he'd hit weak grounders to shortstop, and you're like, what? This doesn't compute. But it's because he made too much contact. Too much contact. High contact and high chase rate is the worst combination. I mean, we've seen that with Andres Gimenez at times this year, too, where you'd rather swing and miss at a pitch outside of the zone if you're going to chase it than make contact and hit it weakly at somebody. That was the whole premise of their offseason philosophy shift, where they wanted, like, Stephen Kwan was like, hey, if I swing and miss more, it's okay, because the swing and miss is supposed to replace weak contact. And with, I almost called him Fran Reyes, with Jhonkensy Noel, it's like, well, if you're going to chase that slider 3 feet outside the zone, at least miss it. Unless, if there's 2 strikes, you'd rather make contact. But if you're going to chase a 2-0 slider out of the zone, if you miss it, you're still alive. The line Chris Valera was saying, they'd rather it be 0-1 than 1 out. Better to have it be 0-1 than 0-4-1. And yeah, like you want Noel to make more contact just generally, but if it's good contact, if it's productive contact, you don't want someone sacrificing power or what their bread and butter is to have more like softly hit grounders. That's not going to help anybody.
Two out of 3 in the series.
Play the club music.
Not only 2 out of 3, Zach Meisel, but also a loss by the Twins and an impending loss by the Kansas City Royals. You know what? There might not be many opportunities for the rest of this year to hit that club music, so I think...
It's not for us, TJ. Play it. Play the party music.
Time.
It's for the fans. They've had to sit through some really grueling zombie baseball, as Paul Hoynes would call it, for the last few weeks. They deserve it. Celebrate the wins when they happen. Life's too short. Party on.
Getting this late in the calendar, I mean, we are focused still on this offense. The second game in the series felt like, okay, you're throwing something together. The power's coming back a little bit. In the finale, you're right back to not really providing a ton. Got enough. 4 runs? Okay, you take it. Couple of bombs. I like it. That's fine. Does it look like this offense is heading in the right direction? I don't know that yet. But when you're this late in the calendar, and you have a day where the 2 teams chasing you in this division, looks like they're going to lose, and you pick up a game on both of them, and you take 2 out of 3 in the series, would have loved to sweep. The offense looked like it was waking up a little bit early in that first game, but just not quite enough. All things considered, I feel pretty good coming out 2 out of 3 and ended up gaining ground in this division.
Yeah, I think you're at a point where if you split with Kansas City, I think that's okay. I think you should set your sights higher, of course. You want to win every series that you play, but for the Royals, there are limited opportunities to claw back in it. They're 3 games back. A lot can happen over the course of a month, but if you're Kansas City, if you're Minnesota, those games against the team you're chasing, those are the ones you got to win. So if Kansas City comes here for 4 games in 3 days and leaves having made up no ground, that's a win for the Guardians.
And we're so used to them being the team that's chasing late in the year, or just trying to make up for the shortcomings earlier in the year. The good thing is you did play well early in the year, and now everyone's chasing you. Thank God you build up that cushion because it hasn't been great here lately. Hey, 2 out of 3. I'll certainly take it. And of course, I feel better about it because, yes, the offense didn't quite give me enough to completely erase everything we've seen here recently. It was fun to see them break out. It's fun to see Stephen Kwan have a hit that kind of broke the offense through, but then that was it for him pretty much in the entire series. But all that feels good in tandem with having 2 guys here in this series that pitch their asses off. And we keep asking who's going to start the playoff game, whether it's Lively, whether it's... What? Oh, okay.
If you're hearing this sounder, it means Zach has ridiculously asked for TJ to give him his 3 starters if the playoffs started today.
Kind of getting sick of you just getting out in front and asking me and never having to answer the question yourself.
I'm going to challenge you here. Why don't you be bold for once? What do you got?
And what? Be bold for once. Some might argue that me saying Lively was still the second starter and past shows was bold.
By the way, if you want more proof that Chris Antonetti listens to the podcast, or that he's not real, one of us is Chris Antonetti. He even referenced this morning, it's been a rough stretch lately, but if you would have told me on March 1st that we'd be 74 and 55 or whatever, he literally said that. So,
Imagine telling yourself, I knew it.
Who do you think Chris Antonetti is in the Patreon Discord? Do you think he's Chip Chipperson? Do you think he's Max the sports expert?
I tell you what, if I was trying to throw everybody off my scent, I might be the sports expert. I'd really trick everybody with that one.
It would make sense if he was Trainiacs.
Yeah, that one I could buy. Zach S. Yeah, with it spelled CHS.
Incorrectly, you mean?
By the way, if you come join the Patreon, you get access to the Discord, and you can fight the sports expert in there with everybody else. No, it's fun. We promise. Boyd looks like I think I might trust this guy with the playoff start.
He's making me eat my words. I know that. I was very
you
skeptical
said good
of the signing.
about him. But before he made his debut, but you talked to him. You got some more information. And after that, you came away eager to see him throw.
He's a great guy. Seems really smart, really personable. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's grateful for the opportunity. I mean, we talked about this a little bit before, but it's a great marriage because the Guardians desperately need starting pitching help, and he desperately needed a situation where he could thrive for the final 2 months of the season to set up free agency. And lo and behold, these two entities found each other, and he's doing exactly what he wants to do and what the team wants him to do. So, yeah, I don't know. Like you're trying to evaluate this rotation, and I don't think you can do it on stuff because, like, Lively has always been about can he outpitch his stuff. Boyd, I think it's the same thing. This guy's coming back from freaking Tommy John surgery. It's not like he's easing into this here, and he's looked great. So I don't know. And even with Alex Cobb, like the goal was this is an elite ground ball pitcher. So just get guys to hit it into the ground. Like it's easy to dream about Gavin Williams, but I think I need to see results. So I don't know that's why this is not an exercise for me. It's for you to name your 3 starters. Who you got?
Bibee, Lively, Boyd.
No Cobb, the fingernail scaring you off?
Well, I can't. You said right. Well, the sounder says as of right now, I have to pick a starter, and Cobb isn't healthy, so I would go Boyd. Yes, over Williams. Yes, but I mean, once you get deeper into the playoffs, you would need more than just 3 starters. But we're talking initially, who's those 3 that you would believe in, and Boyd would absolutely be. I mean, he's come up and he's now 2.70 ERA, 4.19 FIP. He's got 12 strikeouts in 16 2/3 innings. He's given up a couple of home runs, but look who he gave up home runs to.
You mean the guys he'd have to face in your imaginary playoff series that you're talking about?
But that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. And I think what has been really impressive, as we talked about before when he first appeared, his command has looked really good. He looks totally, I don't mean to make this a pun, but he looks totally in command of his pitches. Looks like he knows exactly what he wants to do. He's not afraid to shake off. Of course, Bo Naylor, we saw that in his first start, but we saw even Austin Hedges. He knows what he wants to do, and he's executing it right now. Who could argue? This guy, I was skeptical with you. I mean, you said you were intrigued. I didn't go that far because I still had some healthy level of skepticism, and I still do. I'm not saying that I just believe he's going to have a 2.70 ERA for the rest of this season. But in terms of a guy that is throwing the ball well, keeping runs off the board, and just looks like he's in command of his emotions out there, sort of similar to Ben Lively, the one thing that I don't question is the things don't look like they're going to get out of control because he can't keep the heart rate at bay.
And they're giving this team innings. Like, it's not 3 2/3, and you're wondering if you should let them face the lineup a third time through. And no, it's helping the bullpen too. Like, I know that they had a rough stretch there, but you have gotten rest for guys who needed rest. And I think that'll be important. The other thing is how much we don't know the answer to this. We won't know the answer to this. It's a hypothetical. We're getting ahead of ourselves. How much of who you choose to start depends, like, are you thinking at all, if your vote, Antonetti, Chernoff, are you thinking at all about, like, what the alternative is? Like, if Gavin Williams isn't in the rotation, okay, let him eat 2 innings out of the bullpen, and, like, that's fun to think about, given his stuff. Whereas if Gavin Williams is in your rotation, like, are you carrying Alex Cobb? Are you carrying Matt Boyd? Ben Lively? Those guys in the bullpen? Like, maybe you need a long guy, kind of. You really don't. How much does that factor into the equation? Because I have a follow-up to this as well.
I mean, it does. Everything does. Even opponent. You look at opponent, you look at not just handedness, but what a team does against specific pitches that a guy might rely on. Do you believe more in a guy, as I said, that has the heartbeat in check in the postseason compared to a guy that's never done it before?
Yeah. I think the goal is still to get Gavin Williams to a place where he's the easy answer to this, where he's the second name you say, and you don't have to hesitate. If you're thinking about ceiling and you want to think about ceiling when it comes to October. But he's got to do more. You got to see it.
I do wonder, Gavin Williams being able to get out there with a little extra adrenaline in a postseason start. How we see this guy hit 101, 102, with just a little bit extra added juice. Or would that play against him? Would he be too overamped? Would he not be able to find the zone at all in a situation like that? I mean, the beauty is it's August 25th as we record this. So we get more information before you actually make that determination. But as of today, I think it's an easy answer that Boyd would be in and Williams would not, and not initially.
So, semi-related. I asked Antonetti about Triston McKenzie, and it sounds like still spinning their wheels. I think there's been some good, there's been some bad, but there hasn't been, like, substantial development or improvement. I still don't think they're seeing exactly what they want. And I asked, would you consider shifting him to a bullpen role down the stretch so he could help you for an inning and just simplifying things? And in my head, I'm thinking the Carlos Carrasco route. Let him just focus on one inning. The task is not too daunting. 3, 4, 5 batters. And if you have to pitch from the stretch like Carrasco did, do it. But just go act like a reliever. You don't have to bottle up anything to deploy in the 5th inning. Just let it eat for 20 pitches. He said he didn't rule it out. He said, yeah, like that's a possibility. I don't know if we'll see that, but would you be intrigued by that at all? Do you think he could help in that role? Do you think the Carrasco route would be a sensible one for them to take with him?
I need to see it.
Yeah.
I can't answer that honestly without seeing it. And now you'll get an opportunity with small expansion of rosters. I think we all have our eye on one guy being part of that. But I think if you're going to consider it, he's swinging the bat well too. I'm going to take it away from him. Wouldn't you need to see it? Wouldn't you be curious to see it? Even I guess even at AAA, I would want to see a little bit, but you're asking him to do something new in terms of preparation. And of course, in that role, you're probably not asking him to go back to back or anything like that. But it's just one day to come out for one inning, or maybe even, depending on how the start's going, one time through a lineup or something like that. But I need me to see it, but I think more than anything, he needs to experience it to know how do you prepare for a role like that.
Yeah, I mean, when he went down to AAA, I think if you would have said, hey, the Guardians are going to have a doubleheader at the end of August, and they're going to need 2 starting pitchers, if you would have told me that neither of them would be Triston McKenzie, I would have said, what the hell happened? Did he have Tommy John surgery? Like, I think the season's gone sideways, and I wonder, like, where does the career go from here? You know, I don't know. There are going to be some decisions that have to be made, and I wonder how you get him back on track if you haven't really seen what you've wanted to see to this point. And you're right. Like, it's probably something you would have wanted to start by now, because he's just going to throw him in the bullpen next week and ask him to come back 2 or 3 days later, and he's never done that, and it's tough. But I don't know if that fastball plays up and it's 95, 96 in a relief role, and you can live mostly fastball, curveball, and throw an occasional slider. Like, you simplify everything. That's what the key was for Carrasco. Just simplify it, let him attack. He was aggressive, and that's been the biggest burden for McKenzie, is that attacking mindset. And instead of being tentative and falling behind guys and then nibbling and having to come in the strike zone with the fastball, and the hitter knowing that and feasting on it, if you're the aggressor in a relief role and you don't have time to waste, I don't know. I feel like that could be a suitable role for him. But you're right. You got to see it, and it's going to take time. And even with Carrasco, they did that. But it wasn't like he did that and then he was back in the rotation in a few weeks. Like, it was a project.
Yeah. And it just became
I think it's worth trying, though. I mean, it's just, you just start wondering about how to build the best roster for the stretch run, and like what you're lacking and what, because having someone, wasting away in AAA and then just saying, all right, thanks, see you in February. Like, I don't know, there might be a more efficient, effective way for him to spend the rest of his season, and for you to try to squeeze a little more out of him since you haven't gotten anything this year. I don't know. It's worth debating.
I love the idea. That's an intriguing idea, but we're talking about a theory here. We're talking about a possibility, and it's still a game played by human beings, and I don't know how he would respond. I don't know how he feels physically. There's an element here where you and we're not talking to him every single day. We don't know how he would approach this. And the other thing is, who would you envision him replacing? That's part of it too. Would you rather have McKenzie in this role than Avila, who's done pretty well? And the other thing is, we envision this like day one of the playoffs, and then this would be his role for however long the playoffs last. Well, if you advance, there are changes to a roster and things happen. So you want a guy to just be prepared in case either it's a necessity or it's an intriguing idea that you actually want to put into practice. And that doesn't even mean that it has to be an initial thing.
No, because I also want him confident going into the offseason. I don't want him spending 4 months thinking, well, that season sucked, and I don't have any more clarity or feel any better about things at the end of the season as I did in the middle of the season when I got demoted. It's can you find a way to help him build some confidence? I don't know. That's one potential trial you could employ, but we'll see.
You mentioned Cobb. Where are we at on him?
He'll throw live BP midweek. And then if that goes well, I think the question is, do you need a rehab start, or can you just make your next scheduled start? So he missed the New York start, which would have been, Wednesday, and then he would be scheduled to start tomorrow. So theoretically, he could return when he's eligible against Pittsburgh next weekend, if he's ready for that.
I think you'd want him making that start. Like in the major leagues, I think you want him making that start. And for him, you're probably thinking, like, I don't want to waste. I've had so many issues coming back and being healthy. Blisters, fingernails, everything getting in his way.
If he goes to Columbus, he's going to get a spider bite, and it's going to cost him another month.
I'm going to ask Chris Johnson where he slept. I don't want to waste any. If I have a good throw within me, it is going to be at the major league level, and hopefully I got 85 of them against Pittsburgh. That to me, I would not waste any time with a rehab start. But I mean, that's all based on how he feels.
Well, I think the thing that helps is it's not like he was shut down, really. He was able to play light catch, throwing only fastballs. It's just he hasn't been able to grip the baseball to throw that curveball until the nail regrew. So now that he's at that point, he's fine. But it's not like, it's not like he had shoulder soreness and then he couldn't play catch for a week. So, yeah, I think that's a possibility for sure.
So you got to go like the knuckleball route? And they soak them in pickle juice to try to make the fingernails tougher or something. Was that a thing? We just don't see many knuckleballers anymore. We could ask.
I mean, guys do anything. Moises Alou peed on his hands before he went to bat, so he didn't have to use batting gloves.
Well, who hasn't done that before?
They'll think of
League.
anything they can.
Stephen Kwan had a big hit. Really seemed to break the offense loose in that second game. I was hopeful that was going to break him loose too. Give him a little bit more confidence. Not only was it a big base hit, but it was a good hit. To the gap in right center field. He pulled it. It was a screaming line drive. Just looked great. And then it just was back to what's been going on with Stephen Kwan here lately. I know our pal Matt over at Covering the Corner, below average OPS on Twitter, had been talking about, hey, look at the line drives. He's not pulling the line drives as much as he was early in the year, which is true. The problem is that's still a symptom. It's not the cause. Like, it is the cause, but you have to go deep. Why is he not doing that? And that, I know he's trying to get to the bottom of how he gets back to being the guy that pulls those screaming line drives. The team is doing that too. I'd even wondered, here's a guy that is looking to take more significant swings this year, late in the year. Maybe the arms are just getting a little bit tired. We've seen guys throughout seasons before where they have to go to a lighter bat as the season progresses, just because you're either not as strong or you don't bounce back between swings as much as you did. It's a little bit tougher late into the August and September parts of his schedule. So I'd wondered about that. I even went, Zach, and looked at his bat swing, his swing speeds over the last month, and I was like, maybe he was at 64 miles per hour early, and now it's down to 62, and that'll explain something, right? It's actually up a mile per hour over the last month, at least when I had checked it a couple of days ago. And the swing length wasn't significantly different either. So I don't know. I'm not paid enough, and I'm not smart enough to be able to figure it out. But I think we all recognize that this is not just your casual regression here. This is something he's got to do to get himself out of it. And I don't question that he's going to eventually. But God, Zach, they need it soon, because we saw in the second game of the series just what one big base hit from Stephen Kwan at the top of the lineup can mean to this offense.
Yeah, he's the catalyst, and they've really struggled to score early, to grab leads, and it feels like they've been playing from behind for a month. Yeah, I have not dug into it enough, and if you say you're not smart enough, then I certainly am not. I asked him about it, and he kind of downplayed it. I asked if he felt like he'd been pitched to differently over the last month or two. He wasn't really buying into it. I do wonder, I've said this before, but if you look at his home runs, almost all of them are fastballs in. He says it's because of the short arms. He can just pull it. It's easy for him to turn on it, and he can line that into the seats. And makes sense. And again, he's got to be recognizing that pitch that he can hit in a count where he can take the aggressive swing, and he's done that. I mean, if he didn't miss a month, we're talking about Stephen Kwan 20 home run hitter probably. So It's pretty ridiculous to think that we could be critical of a guy who, again, like, I don't know, this season could be like he could still hit 300 with an 800 OPS. I understand that it feels like his numbers are just plummeting, but you would think that he'd rebound and wind up hitting 300, 800 OPS, and like 15 to 20 home runs. You would have said, holy shit, what a season by Stephen Kwan. And instead we're like, oh my God, make this free fall stop. I don't understand. So it's weird. And I think because of that, he is attributing to, the ups and downs of a season and having to adjust back and those things. And maybe it's not just one simple fix, and there's not one thing he can point to and say, well, this is what's happening. Here's how I get out of this. But I do wonder if you're a pitcher and you identify that this is his sweet spot. This is where he likes to just pull a fastball and he can do damage on it. Why would you ever throw him that? He has a brilliant handle of the strike zone. He's not going to chase. So if you can't throw him to him on the inside, you've got to attack him on the outside part of the plate. And I wonder if he's just having trouble hitting those pitches hard. If guys are just attacking you to the outside of the plate and they're still throwing strikes, well, what's the best you can do with that? Kind of what he did 2 years ago, where you get a bunch of bloop hits and your BABIP is high and you wind up hitting like 280, 285. I don't know. I don't know how to get out of this. I know that if you flirt with 400 for a few months, you're a damn good hitter, and this isn't going to be who you are forever. So I think he'll adjust and he'll rebound. I guess I'm really surprised it's taken this long.
And again, if you go over to the Savant page, it all still looks great. There's a lot of red in expected batting average. There's a lot there that you would say, what's the issue? But it's beyond just you and me saying it, or even just a casual, I only watch 2 games a week, fan sitting on a couch that could recognize it. Stephen Kwan recognizes it too. He looks frustrated. There was one where he popped out into foul territory. It might even have been the one right after the double where he did a backwards spin out of the box. He was extremely frustrated with himself again. I mean, I don't know if it's a question of not being able to get the barrel out in front enough where he wants. I don't know. I really am just throwing stuff at the wall, trying to figure it out myself. And if he hasn't figured it out yet, then who am I to think that I'm going to figure it out?
Yeah. I mean, you still trust the guy, and it's hard because his season is kind of reflective of the Guardians' season, and you don't want to lose sight of just how incredible he was for a long period of time. You're going to look back at his numbers at the end of the season, and you might be like, man, he was hitting so well there, but then you might look back in 5 years and be like, hey, Stephen Kwan, remember in 24 he hit 310 with 17 home runs, and what a great year, even if you don't feel that way on November 1st. It's weird. Baseball's weird. 162 games make this difficult to analyze at various points.
And it's always the thing that sticks with you is, what have we seen over the last several weeks? Or even a month? Well, that's what I believe. And we talk about it. When a team's in a losing streak, you think that they're never going to recover. How are they ever going to get themselves out of this? It felt like after you lose the opener to Texas in this series, it's how many games are they going to lose in a row now? And then they fight back. The offense looks phenomenal in the second game of the series, and you're hopeful that can carry over. You get a couple of bombs in the finale. Noel goes deep again. You get great starting pitching, and then you go to the next series in Kansas City. You're like, yeah, I can't be stopped. It's human nature. And with Stephen Kwan, you look at the struggles he's had, and then I go down to the minor leagues. We're talking about Manzardo every single show. How about George Valera, the role that he's on? Well, you said that it has to be positional flexibility that's holding down Kyle Manzardo at this point, because David Fry kind of does the same thing, first base and DH, because of where he's at physically. Well, George Valera can do more than that. How about George Valera, another bomb today?
Sure.
I'd like an answer on George Valera, even if the numbers overall don't look great. He's been really good here recently, and I think he can beat up some right-handed pitching. We know the team needs that. But he's now, 16 home runs this year?
Yeah, I mean, more importantly, the OPS is below 500 against lefties, but it's over 850 against righties. That's, you're not asking him to come up here and play every day. Look, I appreciate that people that listen to this podcast can understand. We've been talking about this for weeks. I think when the team was down in the dumps and the fans were frustrated and the questions started flying again, ask the tough questions. Why don't you ask this or that? And it's like, we do. And also, like, just because they don't give the answer you want to hear doesn't mean it doesn't get asked. And that's not why they're losing games. But as we have discussed on this podcast for weeks, because of the intel I've received and the analysis we've provided, as you said, David Fry's lack of defensive versatility at this moment, since he has had the elbow injury and has not been catching or playing outfield, compounded with the fact that he's also really struggled, especially against right-handed pitching, even though he did hit a home run right over there, in the ninth or eighth inning for some insurance on Sunday. It makes it so that if Manzardo came up, they're not thrilled with the limited flexibility they'd have defensively. Look, who cares? We've covered this for weeks. But you'll obviously see somebody by September 1st. And I'm kind of feel like Valera might be a better fit at this point. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, in terms of who's going to perform better, I would still put money on Manzardo. But in terms of needing to answer a tough question about Valera as soon as this upcoming year, I would like a little bit of major league data, him experiencing it, because how are you going to let this guy just walk away? You're going to let his options run out and you'd never put him on the big league roster? I'm pretty skeptical that that's going to be the case. So I don't know. If he's swinging the bat well and he could help against right-handed pitching, does it have to be an either-or thing? Maybe I just want to see them both up here.
Yeah, I guess that's not impossible. It would be the same thing, though. I think they really want Rocchio and Schneemann and Freeman. I think they want the ability to mix and match. I don't know. I'm with you. I think part of the issue is Lane Thomas was supposed to be a solution here. And you've seen it too. Like it's not like they're still trotting out Fry and Thomas every day against righties. They've curtailed that. The problem is, I don't think Freeman and Schneemann are the answers every day either. So yeah, I mean, this lineup is still missing some pieces. They're very fortunate Noel has been on the tear he's been on, because otherwise, like that's if he wasn't doing what he was doing, imagine what this lineup would look like. Be pretty ugly. I mean, it already has been.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But that's how it goes. That's how it goes.
It
in
is.
a big league
But I'm
season.
saying, not only is there already like the Manzardo / Valera, whoever getting another left-handed bat up here is long overdue. If you didn't have Noel hitting for power, I mean, like what's your excuse at that point?
Yeah, there would be none. And thankfully that has been the case. And you know what? With Noel, the one pleasant surprise I have with him, you look at that guy and you think, God, he must just station to station, plodding along. He's actually got some okay speed for a man of that size. He
reached
looks
on a
like
strikeout.
a runaway freight train. Runaway freight train sometimes. On the sprint speed, he's above average in terms of sprint speed. I can't believe it. And he hasn't, I don't think he's going to win any gold gloves in right field, but like what I watch him play right field, it looks like he can get to the balls that generally a right fielder would get to. Maybe he doesn't always look extremely pretty, but who's going to argue with him finding his way into the lineup however it has to happen? And credit to him for making it happen in right field a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, he's done everything they've asked and more. It's been really impressive. And they're kind of handcuffed because you've seen Will Brennan at DH with Noel in right field some days, and I'm like scratching my head. I still think Brennan's a better defender there. This is kind of weird. And then you remember late in the game, they don't want Fry out in right field. So if he's going to pinch hit for Brennan against a lefty, he's got to be at DH. So that's that. And hey, you talked about momentum and going into a Royals series, having won a couple and creating a little bit more separation between yourselves and the Twins and Royals. And what's the old cliche? Momentum's only as good as the next day's starting pitcher. And with that said,
opener.
The Guardians will send Nick Sandlin to the mound to start game 1 of the doubleheader.
Big series coming up. That's what you want to do. More proof that they listen to this show. You said it in the last show. You said, I think the exact words were, if we were talking about an opener, you said, it would probably be Sandlin, wouldn't it? There it is. Right there.
Yeah, I thought they might consider that with Cantillo against the Yankees just to reduce the number of times Cantillo would need to face Soto and Judge. They didn't. They tagged him in the first inning. So it'll be interesting. I do think, remember, when this game was originally going to be played, Sandlin was going to start it, with Logan Allen being the bulk guy. And the thought process here is Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, those are the Royals' 2 best hitters. They both hit right-handed. So you're reducing the number of times they face Cantillo by 1. Should be beneficial, but you need Sandlin to pitch better than he's pitched lately.
Yeah, sure. And Bobby Witt, sometimes it doesn't matter who that guy's going to face. He's been phenomenal. Eager to watch him because we haven't got to see him in a while, and he's just been great this year. But at the same time, if they want to rest him in this series, got the rest of the season to think about. You probably should sit him in one of these games.
Yeah,
I'd welcome that too.
I'm sure they'll do that. I don't know. There's going to be a lot going on between now and the next time we talk. Will there be more party music later in the week?
Ooh.
I got to let this play. Just so Tom Hamilton comes in tomorrow. He'd be fist pumping, bobbing his head.
So it's still bouncing around in there. Is that the old party booth?
No, this is Hammy and Rosie's booth.
What a missed opportunity.
No parties here, all business. Hammy.
Goodbye, everybody.